All right, it is Thursday, and we are here behind the table with not only Cha-Cha, but Anna Navarro. Hello, Anna.
Hi, Brian.
We're very excited. You're teasing me because I'm very excited. We just finished an interview with the cast of Superman, and I got a comic book signed, and it's the best thing that's ever happened. But
My brother loved Superman.
who doesn't love Superman? I mean, it's
And
great.
my brother loved the movie, so I watched all the movies.
So
with
you
my
did?
brother.
Okay, good.
Well, all of
Yeah.
anything that reminds me of my brother who passed away 20-some years ago, I have like a soft spot in my heart.
He would
for.
like this. I've seen this one, and it's very much.
I don't think he ever met a superhero movie he didn't like, and he loved. You know what else he loved?
What?
Godzilla movies.
Oh, who doesn't love Godzilla?
I watched so many Godzilla movies because of him.
They're still doing those too. All right, I want to talk about something because you told me the other day that you had a dream.
Oh God.
And it was a very uncharacteristic Anna dream. It was basically like everyone, they say everybody has the test dream. You know, you show up to school, you're not ready for the test, and that's what this sounded like to me. So you tell me the story.
Well, first of all, I never dream. I guess I've read that everybody dreams. I never
You don't remember
my
your dreams. Yeah.
But I'm very jet lagged. I just came back from Europe, and I took some melatonin. And I never take anything to sleep, which is very strange for a Latino because, let me tell you, we love our Xanax. But I never take anything. And I was getting up, and I was getting up like in a cold sweat. I had a dream that I came to do the post tape of the show.
Right.
And I came late, right? Because I usually come late, like on days like this when we're post taping. And then for some reason, like 4 of these bitches were out, and it was just Whoopi and me. And so you needed me on deck because it would be just like Whoopi and me. I guess it would have been like the day that Kamala Harris was coming on board, and
we lost some of the hosts.
and we lost too. It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so then there was no time to put hair on makeup because I had to get on the live show. And I was horrified because, literally I was a ghost. My face was all white. I was begging somebody to put on lips as I was trying to walk on stage. And then for some reason, I end up doing it from the bed with the sheets around me because there was also no wardrobe. There was no time for hair and makeup.
Right.
God forbid anybody see what I look like without it. And there was no time for wardrobe. So this was like, literally, this is my nightmare. I could go on TV and talk about anything with 30 seconds.
You did do a full year with a turban because of we were doing it from COVID, and you couldn't get hairdressing. So I mean, it's.
I ended up giving those turbans. I had a full collection of turbans in every color, and I ended up giving it to a friend's mother who was going through cancer. So I want you to know that they went to
a worthy cause,
good use. But I will also, and sometimes I muse with the idea of letting my hair go gray, because under all of this, I am Anderson Cooper. I am like a silver fox.
Interesting.
La loba plateada.
It never occurs to me that you have gray hair. I guess
it never occurs to me either until I'm away from
and it starts coming in
from the country for 3 weeks, and I look at myself and I look like Bride of Frankenstein.
I think my wife wants me to dye my hair. She doesn't say it ever, but she keeps saying, she kept asking me whether I was ever going to. And then I said, do you think I should? And she never says that, but she says, if you are going to do it, you should do it now before people notice. And now we're past that point where I have noticeably gray hair.
I think you need to be careful because for some reason, men, hair dye just doesn't work with most men. I see so many men with like a reddish tinge, what's not supposed to, like, orangey, and I'm not even talking about Trump.
Right.
But I mean, like, like their hair takes a weird orangey tinge when they're trying to go black. But you would look so weird.
I think
I
look weird too now.
Like, think about George Clooney.
Right.
When he went black for that Broadway show.
Yeah. Good night and good luck.
Yeah. It looked weird.
That was weird. All right, but going back to the stress dream, because you're someone who never gives the impression of having any anxiety whatsoever, which is why this struck me so much. I mean, you kind of just let things fall off your shoulders when there are stressful things going on.
I don't get stressed, but I will tell you, going on national TV wrapped in a sheet, that would stress me out.
So I always have, I've always my whole life had the occasional stress dream. As you know, I feel stress around work.
You wake up stressed.
I do. But it's always like a job or two before the job I'm doing. So like when when I was in college, I had stress dreams about high school, showing up for the test unprepared. When I was working, I had dreams about college, showing up unprepared. Now the one I still have, and I've been at this job for 11 years, I dream of being at my old job at the Late Show with David Letterman, walking up to the desk right before a segment interview was supposed to start, looking down at the cards I'm supposed to hand Dave, and they're all blank, and he has nothing to ask the person, and I have no memory of what I was supposed to write. And I get that dream maybe every other week.
Every other week?
Every other week.
That's not normal. I almost feel like you need medication for that.
Perhaps I do.
So it's a recurring dream?
It's a recurring stress dream of me showing up unprepared.
I don't get any stress dreams. I really, this is going to sound heavy, I know. But I really think having had so much loss in my life, having had to, gone through Civil War when I was 8 years old, lost my brother, all of those things, it's like, I'm not going to get stressed out
I understand
over, over some, job thing.
So another way again that I'm privileged and
you are privileged. I am. I am too.
I embrace it. Yeah, I do. All right, let's talk about, speaking of privilege, your trip to Europe that you went for July 4th.
Yeah.
This was quite a trip. Tell me about this. I saw pictures throughout.
Yeah, it was a really nice trip. It was a trip to, like the Balearic Islands, and do you know what the Balearic Islands are?
No, I assume it's a place only the ultra successful get to visit.
No, the Balearic Islands are in Spain, right? It's Mallorca, Menorca.
I know them, yes.
Formentera, and Ibiza. So it was so I did Mallorca and Menorca, which was extraordinarily nice. And then I did the south of France. So I did Nice and Saint-Tropez and Marseille and Saint-Marie-sur-Mer and just some wonderful places. But, it's funny that we began this talking about privilege because it felt privileged in a way that, I've always understood that I'm blessed and that I'm, privileged. But there's so many horrible things going on in the United States right now that I felt I didn't just feel privileged. I didn't just feel blessed. I felt guilty. I felt guilty that at a time when my community, in particular, Latinos and immigrants, are being hunted down. And I know I talk about this every week, but I have to because I can't let this go. What we are seeing in this country is unbelievable. And, and then during that time, it was 4th of July. And it's a holiday that I've always loved so much. I love every patriotic song. I have learned that it's one of the things that I just love, the 4th of July. And it felt so weird, right? And then I said to myself, I am not going to let Donald Trump steal my love of country, my patriotism, my love of patriotic songs and grilling and all of I just refuse to let him steal that. But this is a time when it is hard to celebrate freedom, when I feel that so many of our fundamental freedoms are under attack, and when there are so many people who are losing basic human rights in this country, and there is so much fear. And so I kept remembering, I've heard my Black friends often say a phrase, we've loved our country even when our country hasn't loved us back. And I don't think it's the country. I don't. Mm-hmm. But I think there are people in charge right now that are part of this government who are racist and who would like to get rid of brown people and are doing everything they can to do so by canceling temporary protective status, by having this reign of terror where they're using military style raids in parks where children are playing, and by sending immigrants, some of them legal permanent residents, to places like Alligator Alcatraz and making, isn't that a cutesy name? So I think that there is a very purposeful plan to scare Latinos and immigrants out of this country. And I don't see it happening with white immigrants. There's a hell of a lot of overstays in this country from Eastern Europe and from Canada and from places where people are white and have blue eyes.
South Africans are welcome.
Yeah, South Africans are welcome. Yeah, exactly. And so it felt weird this 4th of July to be posting about, my joy in the water. But also at the same time, as I've said over and over again, I'm a firm believer that we need balance. Because if not, we're going to lose our minds and our joy and ourselves, in the next 3.5 years. There's
Right.
3.5 years left of Trump. So for me, these getaways, these vacations where I can, where I try not to look at social media, where I try not to turn on the TV, where I swim, and I'm with Al and I'm with Cha Cha, and we're spending time as a family, and I'm meeting new people and going to new places. It's a way that I recharge. And I was shocked by the amount of people who I met in Europe. Every single person I met in Europe. It's that time when they ask you where you're from, and you say you're from America, and everybody thinks we've lost our mind. And so you're greeted with the response is either disdain or puzzlement or amazement or disgust, or just like, what the hell are you all thinking about? The day I was in Marseille, the day I got to Marseille, there was a group of U.S. scientists who have basically fled the United States because their funding has been cut, because science is under attack, and have been recruited by Europe. We are losing some of our best scientists and our best minds because of what is happening in this country. And then, like, my God, if you meet a Canadian, they're like, what's going on? We used to be friends. We used to be good neighbors. None of them want to come to the United States. I've been reading that there's something like, so far, a loss of 29 billion with a B dollars from lost tourism. And
yeah.
when I talk to people, like my rich Latin American friends who used to come through Miami to go to Europe and then, shop in Miami or shop in New York for 5 days before they went on to Madrid or Paris or whatever, none of them want to come. They're all flying through Panama. They don't want to go through the hassle. Mm-hmm. Canadians, they tell me they have canceled their summer trips to Maine. They've canceled their winter trips to Florida. A Mexican wanting to come here, under what circumstance? And I'll tell you under what circumstance the Mexicans just came. They came, well, the World Cup, but the Mexicans came to help in Texas at a time when this administration is rounding up Mexicans and targeting them like if they were wild animals to be hunted cruelly. At that same time, the government of Mexico is sending rescuers to help in Texas. At a time when Donald Trump has military personnel stationed in LA, basically hanging out in the buildings and not doing much because there is no insurrection going on in LA. At a time when he calls out the National Guard and has them there for 60 days at a cost of $145 million. And instead of them being in Texas, the Mexicans are coming from Mexico to help in Texas.
Well, let's talk about what happened in Texas, because it was this horrible tragedy,
Horrible.
These floods, and it's so hard to watch, but it's important because we need to figure out, how do you prevent this from happening again? And could this have been prevented? It's a conversation we've had this week. And I know there's a push and pull about not wanting to politicize a tragedy, of course. But what's your take on what we can do and what maybe should have been done?
It's funny because the people who don't want to politicize tragedy are the people who are very quick to politicize tragedy when it is not in a Republican state, right? Mm-hmm. Because these are the same people who happily and very quickly politicize the wildfires in LA and in California. Mm-hmm. Look, as somebody who lives in a state, Florida, that's very prone to natural disasters, I think you need answers, and you need answers now. Because once the cameras leave, once the national media loses attention and the American people move on to the next tragedy, which is going to happen, then there's going to be nobody demanding questions. If it wasn't for the CNNs and the ABC reporters that are on the ground right now, looking at the timeline, looking at the flaws, looking at what went wrong. And we need to have these answers because there's going to be natural disasters. And, and this idea that I've heard so many Republicans say this week, that this was an act of God, that we shouldn't politicize it. Everything is an act of God. If you're a believer, everything's an act of God, right?
Yeah.
So if you're one of these people that are telling me we can't talk about this right now because it's an act of God and we got to focus on the victims, well, in my response is the way we honor these victims is by demanding answers as to what went wrong, because you cannot tell me that in the United States of America in 2025, with all of the resources we have, with all of the scientific research we have, there is not more that could have been done to save some of those lives. There's not more that could have been done to evacuate people more quickly so that they wouldn't have lost their lives in a place that we know this has happened. This exact thing has happened before.
Yeah, it's so tragic. I want to ask you on a slightly different note. We did a hot topic today on the show about involving Idris Elba, and he was talking about, who I know you enjoy. He was talking about this. He discussed working a grim factory job before his Hollywood fame, and said that nothing compares to doing that. And what he does now is privilege and not work. Can't be because of what he used to do. What do you make of that sort of thing? Do you have anything in your past? Whoopi was talking about some of the jobs she's done. Joy was going through all the time she's been fired.
I love celebrities who keep a perspective.
Yeah.
How many times have I said to you, when people complain about, the view is so hard, this is so difficult. How many times have you heard me say to the View family, to, my co-host, this is the best job on TV.
Yeah.
You get to come here. There is a team that helps you with everything. You come, you roll up in your pajamas basically every morning. You get hair, you get makeup, you get earrings, you get clothes, you get somebody that helps you, figure out the topics. You get briefed, and then you are in the hands of a seasoned veteran team that's been working together, many of these folks, for over 20 years, and that knows how to put on a show. What the hell do I have to complain about when I see 13-year-olds in LA selling tamales because their street vendor parents have been deported or are too scared to come out of their houses? What the hell do I have to complain about when I see, people sifting through debris of, trying to look for their relatives and their and now cadavers? I mean, and I just read a interview by Bad Bunny where he said something very similar, and I actually wrote it down. He was doing an interview with Variety, and he said, at times I do think, cabrón, what am I signing up for? It's a lot. But the way I see it, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a teacher, I'm not someone who has to wake up every morning at 5 a.m. to lay down concrete on a busy road to survive. My job is to sing. And even though it comes with its own set of sacrifices, it feels silly to complain about it.
Yeah, it's good to keep
and
perspective.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I try not to complain. Because I try to keep a perspective, and I think it helps that I come from the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and I have seen, little kids that survive off the mangoes. I have seen, little kids selling iguanas on the side of the roads.
What do you get for an iguana?
To survive?
Yeah.
Huh?
What do you get for an iguana these days?
I don't know, but I don't know what you get for an iguana. I've never stopped.
Not stop to get
buy,
one. Yeah.
To buy one.
I am going to remember this the next time we have a Golden Bachelor topic and you're complaining. I'm just going to say you could be selling iguanas.
I will complain about the topics.
But it's better than selling iguanas is all I'm saying.
Well, okay, fine. Touche.
No, I think it's important to keep perspective. And,
in Central America, they eat iguanas. They say it tastes like chicken. I have never tasted one. It's actually a delicacy. Like when in Washington, there's Salvadorian restaurants that it's a big deal that they feature iguana. Now El Salvador and other countries export iguanas so that the ethnic population here that pines for that has it. It's actually very expensive here. They're all over the place in Florida.
Yeah, no, they're everywhere now, right?
Yeah, I'm always scared that
it's like Jurassic Park.
They're much bigger than Cha-Cha.
Yeah.
And no, I don't eat reptiles.
No, nor do I. All right. On that note,
have you ever eaten frog legs?
I have not.
Have you ever been served frog legs?
I went to a tasting menu with a chef where there were frog legs there, and I had to, while the chef was watching, and I had to refuse. It was not great.
Oh, I had the same exact thing. I was in a tasting menu in a really fancy restaurant. It was called Le Talivant in Paris. And, I see this little thing, like in the middle of a little plate of risotto. I see this little thing. It almost looked like a tree. And I'm like, with my rudimentary French, I'm like, qu'est-ce que c'est? And when I hear the waiter say, ra, okay,
Perfect.
rana is frog in Spanish. So when I heard the guy say ra, I was like, oh, no. And let me tell you something. They would not take it back.
No,
it's
they
the
don't.
French.
I know.
It's like, eat it or don't eat it. But if you think we are, yeah. And my ex was like, for as much as we're paying for this,
eat it. I know.
I'm eating yours.
I know.
No, I didn't. I did. I know.
Yeah. Listen, I'm all for expanding your palate, but you got to draw lines at some point. All right. On that note, thank you for joining me today, Anna. Tomorrow on The View, Wayne Brady will be here. You'll be there. And
is he related to Tom Brady?
You can ask him.
Okay.
We'll find out. I think they have a lot in common. And then we will see you all here on Behind the Table on Monday. And by the way, for those asking, The View is nominated for a Daytime Emmy for Best Talk Series. How about that? See you on Monday.
Behind the Table is executive produced by Brian Teta. Supervising producers are Summer Shake and Nathan Getty, with production assistant Emily Darcy and editor Brian Davis. Special thanks to Laurie Hogan, Molly Kaiser, and Katerina Alexopoulos. Producers for ABC Audio are Trevor Hastings, Camille Peterson, and Amira Williams, with supervising producer Susie Liu, executive producer of podcast programming Laura Mayer, and vice president Liz Alessi.